This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.
You know what? Sprinkle has some of you in a chokehold. I am seeing so much content online about how to find a man who is a provider and how to become a stay-at-home wife or a stay-at-home girlfriend, or, all of these trad wife videos that are being posted online now. And look, I get it, because living in a capitalist society sucks. The world went to hell in 2020 with the pandemic. And, a lot of people are stressed and burnt out. And I understand the temptation to opt out of the corporate world, opt out of the workforce, and to have someone take care of you. And I honestly don't have a problem with that. Look, the whole point of feminism was to give women a choice so that women could freely choose to be stay-at-home wives and mothers, or they could also choose to go out and be CEOs. And whatever they chose, it was their choice freely given to them. So if you want to stay home, be a homemaker, if, taking care of family is your biggest priority and you want to show that priority by not working outside the home, do you. I would advise you to have significant savings before you get married, or to have an agreement where your husband gives you a salary, or find a business, start a business that you can do from home so that you can continue to earn some money on the side, because having your own financial security is still important. But, in general, if that's what you want to do, then go for it. That being said, a lot of the content online about this type of life is misleading. And I want to talk to you about how to know if a man that you've met is a provider. So, welcome to Confidently Cherished. My name is Keshia Rice. I'm a dating coach and hypnotherapist. I help ambitious women of faith learn how to heal from their unhealthy relationship patterns and to set boundaries, increase their expectations, and attract healthy, cherished love. So, talking about finding a man who is a provider, and again, I want to say, if it don't apply, let it fly. If you don't care whether or not the man you're with is a provider, don't listen to this episode. Or listen to be curious, but don't be offended by anything I say, right? But if that is a value of yours, if that is something important to you, then these are the things that you need to look out for. And first, I want to be clear on what a provider is, because too often the biggest mistake I see women make is equate provider with rich. And I see this all the time in both, just general public online posts, but also, women will send me messages, or I'll get it from a client of mine. Like, hey, Keshia, I met this man, and he's a provider, but he won't give me any money. And it's like, boo, if he's not giving you anything, if he's not paying any bills, if he's not taking care of you, then he's not a provider. I don't care how much money he makes. And I've seen this play out in real life. I personally know men who are millionaires, multimillionaires, and they are with women, whether married or just dating, but they are with women who make significantly less. And not saying that these women are broke, but, these women may make 6 figures to this man's multiple seven figures, and they will still insist on going 50-50 on bills. They won't buy the woman anything that she asks for. They don't give lavish gifts or anything. So just because a man makes significant income doesn't mean that he's generous. Meanwhile, I have seen men who make, 40, 50,000 a year, and they will work their tails off to try to give the woman they love, at least most of what she asks. Or they will try to shoulder the responsibility of all the household bills on themselves so that she doesn't have to worry about that. They are as generous as they possibly can be, given their salary. So, first of all, when you talk about someone being a provider, you're talking about someone who is generous and who wants to take care of his partner. And I would say not just financially, but also spiritually, emotionally, mentally, because this person should be providing for you in more areas than just money. And also, when it comes to money, because again, I believe that in order to attract the relationship you want, you have to be clear about what it is that you want and need in a relationship and what will make you happy. So with that in mind, if you say that you want a man who provides, what are you asking him to provide? Because for some women, they would say a provider man is someone who takes care of every whim they have. So they want to live a certain lifestyle and all the things that come with that lifestyle. So let's say travel, designer clothes, luxury experiences, nice restaurants, and they want a man to foot the bill for all of it. There are other women who would say a provider financially is someone who takes care of the basic bills and necessities. So they cover the rent or the mortgage, the light bill, the power bill, or whatever. And for the woman, working is optional. So she can choose to not work and know that all her basic needs are taken care of. And, that's about it. She's married to someone who can't afford much extra. Or she can choose to work and her money is like her play money, her spending money. I can think of a particular woman that I knew. She was the mother of a friend of mine back when I was in school. And, her child used to make jokes about her working at Starbucks. But, her husband took care of all the bills. So, with her Starbucks money, she was able to save up and buy herself nice purses, nice shoes and things like that. Not all of it because, obviously Starbucks, she wasn't making that much, but, some of her designer items came from her Starbucks money. So you have to decide what a provider means for you first. But under the basic definition that you are with someone who is generous, who cares about you, and is at least covering your necessities, I'm going to give you some signs when you are just starting out dating and meeting someone that this person is not a provider. So number one, they are constantly counting their investment. And what I mean by that is you have just met this person and they ask, where do you want to go on a date? And you mention a restaurant and they immediately go into how expensive that restaurant is. And they either A, try to suggest something cheaper, or B, they allow, the date to happen at this place that you suggested, but they will constantly talk about how much money it costs. And some will even use that word, investment, especially after the first date. If they want things to become more physical, like they will mention the fact that they spent so much money on you and you now don't want to do, whatever they want. So anyone who is just really counting up the cost of being in your company, being in your presence, that's not someone you want to deal with. That is a sign of someone who is stingy. And before someone tries to say, well, maybe he doesn't have money like that, if you are meeting someone and going on a date with them, before your first date, you should have had a couple of conversations. And with those conversations, you should have an idea of financially the type of person that you're dealing with. Not that you're going to know exactly how much he makes, of course, but if you know what someone does for a living, you can Google what's the average salary for a teacher, an engineer, whatever the case may be. And if you're doing that, and then you're picking places that kind of align with that. So this is not to hate on teachers, but teachers are vastly underpaid. So if you were dating someone who's a teacher and you suggested Olive Garden on a date and he agreed to it, but then spent the entire time talking about how much money Olive Garden is, like that's not someone that you want to deal with, right? Number 2 is the things that would be a sweet romantic gesture are seen to him as a waste. So he won't buy you flowers because flowers are a waste of money. If you've been dating for a few months and an occasion comes along, so anniversary, like, I don't know, 6-month or 1-year anniversary, or your birthday or something like that, he doesn't get you a card because a card is a waste of money. He refuses to spend money on anything that either A, he can't enjoy, or B, he can't see permanently. So he will spend money on your dates because it's an experience that he also enjoys. So he gets benefit from it as well. Or he will spend money on something that he can constantly see and bring up to you the fact that he spent money on it. So he will buy you jewelry, for example, because every time you go out and you wear said jewelry, he can remind you that he paid for it. But he won't spend money on anything that is temporary and doesn't benefit him. He will call those things a waste. Again, especially flowers. Number 3 is he does not care about how you get to the date. So I understand that in 2024, there are safety concerns with a man picking you up for a date. But I'm going to tell you just my personal experience when I was dating. The men that I dated, either A, and again, because we're talking about like providers and what income brackets that could be and all of that. This depended on how wealthy the man I was dating at the time, how wealthy he was. But there were men who sent a car, to pick me up and to take me to a date. There were men who, didn't necessarily have money like that, but they paid for the Uber, right? Or the Lyft or taxi or whatever for me to get there and to get back home. Even men that I drove myself to meet them, those men would at least insist on paying for parking, right? If you're dating someone who has no concern to how you get to the date, not only is he stingy, he's also inconsiderate and, forgive the language, but also kind of a jackass. Like, because things happen to women. Like, this is not trying to infantilize you or say that you need someone to watch out for you. Like, I know you're grown and all that, but safety is a thing, especially if you are meeting someone at night. And this person should want to ensure that you're getting to your meeting with them and that you're getting home safely. Number 4 is if you bring up anything that costs money, they immediately go into, well, these are things that I would buy for my wife or pay for with my wife, but I won't do that for a girlfriend. Well, the reason why we date, the reason why there's a whole courting process is to see whether or not this person is aligned enough to be your spouse. So the behaviors that they exhibit in dating are an indication of what you can expect when you are married. And I'm going to tell you, if a man says that to you, is complete BS. Because when a man is dating you, especially in the early stages, he is on his best behavior. And if you marry him, he's going to feel like he, quote unquote, has you, which means he's going to feel like he doesn't have to do as much work. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be completely terrible, go way downhill and be awful. But a man will do more work earlier in the relationship. So if he's spouting BS about like, I don't do this for girlfriends, like don't fall for that. And number 5 is he is not a provider if he doesn't put any effort into making you happy. So he never surprises you with anything. He never plans dates. You're always the one coming up with plans. He just doesn't make the effort. So in a sense, he's along for the ride. If you plan things, he says, okay. Or if you allow low effort dates, like just hanging out at his house where he doesn't have to think about anything, he says, okay. And your entire relationship will be like that. He will marry you because he can save money with the two of you living together and going 50-50 and splitting the bills. He doesn't necessarily have to love you for that. And in fact, I think we all know cases of this, but I most definitely know cases of men marrying women that, or at least moving in with women, but also, marrying women that they didn't necessarily, I was going to say not only that they weren't in love with, but they didn't even necessarily like, but this woman was convenient and she allowed him to save money by going 50-50. She took care of him. She cleaned and stuff like that while he got his life together so that he could pursue the woman that he actually wants. If a man is in love with you, he will put forth effort. The extent to which he loves you is the extent to which he will put in effort. So if he puts in no effort, he really does not care. Not to say he hates you or anything like that, but he'll be fine if you stick around and he'll be fine if you don't. So these are the 5 signs that someone is not a provider. And if you are experiencing these things, then this is your sign to leave the relationship and cut your losses if finding someone who's going to provide for you is a priority. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you've experienced any of these signs and if you left the relationship right then or if you stayed longer. I am on social media at Keshia Rice, KESHIA RICE, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. So I'm going to cut this short because as you guys can hear, I am still very stuffed up. So I will talk to you later. Love you. Bye. Hey there. So you made it all the way to the end of the episode, which means I have 2 things to say. 1, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And 2, you like me. You really like me. So I would appreciate it if you would show that like by subscribing to this podcast so that more people can hear about it and enjoy it as much as you do. And if you want to know more about any of the links that I mentioned on this episode or any guests that I've had, be sure to go to KeshiaRice.com/links. That's KeshiaRice.com/links. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. So see you then.